about extreme wealth today for just a second. Honestly, your mind probably jumps straight to Silicon Valley garages, right? Or maybe revolutionary algorithms, massive social media platforms, or some crazy lightning-in-a-bottle crypto craze. We are completely conditioned to believe that to become one of the wealthiest people on the planet, you literally have to invent the future. You have to outpace everybody else in this frantic, nonstop race for the absolute next big thing. But what if I told you that one man built a staggering fortune, we're talking well over $100 billion here, by doing something almost unbelievable in today's fast-paced world? He just waited. He didn't become a billionaire by predicting tomorrow's flashy headlines or chasing the hottest new trend. He became a titan of industry by completely ignoring them. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the life, the mindset, and the phenomenal success of Warren Buffett. We're going to explore how the ultimate superpower in business, and honestly in life, might just be the quiet, unyielding discipline of extreme patience. Look at the sheer contrast we're dealing with here. On one hand, you have the chaotic reality of the modern financial world. We live in an era totally dominated by breaking news tickers, social media market hype, and this constant, intense allure of the overnight millionaire. It's an environment literally designed to trigger your emotions. It makes you feel like you're constantly missing out if you aren't chasing the absolute latest trend. But then, on the other hand, you have Warren Buffett. For decades, while the rest of the world rushed anxiously from one shiny new thing to another, he stuck to a philosophy so incredibly simple that a lot of self-proclaimed experts actually rushed it off. He relied on quiet discipline, rational thinking, and an absolute iron-clad deity to block out the noise. His journey is the ultimate proof that enduring success, it's rarely about moving the fastest. It is entirely about moving the smartest. All right, here's our roadmap for This Explainer. First, we'll look at the power of waiting. Second, early lessons in value. Third, we'll dive into the circle of competence. Fourth, compounding wealth and knowledge. And finally, a timeless legacy. So, let's kick things off with part one, the power of waiting, quietly accumulating wealth in a loud world. Born in Omaha, Nebraska, right at the dawn of the 1930s, young Warren Buffett was, well, he wasn't your average kid. While the other kids in his neighborhood were out playing games, Warren had this intense, almost gravitational pull toward figuring out how money and business actually worked. And he wasn't just doing chores for pocket money either. He was running literal micro-enterprises. He went door to door selling packs of chewing gum, 6-packs of Coca-Cola, magazines, newspapers, the whole shebang. Every single door he knocked on, every transaction became a fundamental piece of an education you just can't get in a classroom. But his real crucible moment, the turning point for his entire philosophy, happened when he was just 11 years old. He pooled his money and bought his very first stock. And like almost every beginner, he made a massive emotional mistake. Shortly after he bought the shares, the price took a dive. He got nervous. You know, that awful pit in your stomach feeling? So the absolute second the stock recovered and showed a tiny little profit, he sold it. Just breathed a sigh of relief and got out. But then he had to sit on the sidelines and watch as that exact same stock skyrocketed way beyond what he ever imagined. That agonizing little micro-story of selling out of fear taught him a deeply painful but completely invaluable lesson. Patience will almost always pay off better than reacting to your temporary emotions. That brings us to part two, early lessons in value, the Benjamin Graham influence. Okay, so Benjamin Graham is widely considered the father of value investing, and his teachings hit young Warren Buffett like an absolute lightning bolt. Graham proposed a really revolutionary but incredibly grounded idea. A stock is not just some fluctuating ticker symbol bouncing around on a screen. It is an actual, literal piece of ownership in a living, breathing business. Graham taught that instead of trying to guess if a stock's price would magically go up by next Tuesday, an investor should be looking at the underlying business itself. Is it strong? Can it grow over the next 10, 20 years? This paradigm shift changed Buffett forever. He completely stopped looking at market trends. Instead, he started hunting for companies with durable competitive advantages, run by honest leaders with consistent profits and models he could actually understand. He learned to scoop up great businesses when the rest of the market foolishly underestimated what they were truly worth. Let's look at two monumental examples of how he actually applied this in the real world. In the late 1980s, Buffett poured billions into Coca-Cola. Now, why did he do that? While Wall Street was frantically hunting for the next obscure, high-tech growth stock, Buffett simply looks at a timeless brand that millions of people around the world already consumed and deeply loved every single day. He clearly understood that massive consumer value. And decades later, it's still one of Berkshire Hathaway's most legendary investments. Fast forward a bit and look at his move into Apple. For the longest time, Buffett famously steered clear of tech companies. But eventually he realized Apple wasn't just a tech company. He recognized it as an unparalleled consumer product company with an incredibly sticky ecosystem and fierce brand loyalty.
He didn't buy Apple because tech was trendy. He bought it because he saw that the iPhone had become one of the strongest, most indispensable consumer hubs in human history.
Moving on to part 3, the circle of competence, the power of saying, I don't know. In the ultra-competitive, totally ego-driven world of global finance, admitting you don't know something is almost viewed as a weakness. But for Buffett, the willingness to look at some hot emerging industry and comfortably say, I have no idea how this works, became a massive competitive advantage. This is what he calls the circle of competence. The concept is wonderfully simple. Draw a circle around the things you truly, deeply understand. Your goal isn't to make that circle as massive as possible. Your goal is to fiercely stay inside of it. He never felt even an ounce of pressure to throw money at complex, hyped-up industries that he couldn't explain on a napkin. While everyone else was sweating over the fear of missing out, Buffett was perfectly happy sitting on the sidelines, protecting his capital, simply because an opportunity fell outside his circle. You really see this perfectly during the late 1990s dot-com bubble. The financial markets were riding these wild, crazy waves of euphoria. The world seemingly lost its collective mind. Investors were throwing literally trillions of dollars at internet companies that had zero actual profits solely based on the hype of having a .com web address. Through all of this absolute frenzy, Buffett adamantly refused to participate. And man, the media was ruthless about it. Critics were publishing articles claiming Buffett had finally lost his touch, that he was a dinosaur, totally out of step with the new digital economy. But he held his ground. He didn't understand how these internet startups were ever going to make real money, so he just didn't buy them. And you know what happened? When the bubble spectacularly burst, wiping out immense fortunes overnight and destroying reputations, Buffett stood there completely unharmed. His iron discipline absolutely shielded him from the madness. Which leads us directly to perhaps the most famous piece of investment wisdom ever spoken. Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. Now, this isn't just some clever soundbite to print on a coffee mug. This is the absolute bedrock of his entire strategy, tested time and time again, especially during massive financial crises. When sheer panic spreads through the markets and everyone else is liquidating their life savings in terror, Buffett is the one calmly, rationally walking through the wreckage, picking out brilliant opportunities that are suddenly on sale. He literally flips human psychology to his absolute advantage. Let's dive into part 4, compounding wealth and knowledge, time as the greatest asset. Okay, this crucial point is perfectly captured by one year, 1958. Despite becoming one of the wealthiest human beings to ever walk the planet, Buffett has maintained an astonishingly modest lifestyle. 1958 is the year he bought a modest, unassuming house in a quiet Omaha neighborhood. And get this, he still lives in that exact same house today. No way, right? It's a monumental testament to his total avoidance of flashy luxury. For Buffett, money isn't about buying a fleet of mega yachts to show off. Money is simply a tool. He realized super early on that every single dollar saved from unnecessary extravagance was a dollar that could be put to work, generating returns, which would then generate their own returns. Time, because of this, became his single greatest asset. But here's the thing. He didn't just compound his money, he compounded his mind. Buffett is famously known for spending the vast majority of his waking hours just sitting quietly in his office reading. He devours books, thick corporate annual reports, and multiple daily newspapers. He firmly believes that knowledge compounds in your brain the exact same way money compounds in a bank account. Every single page he reads, every deep dive business analysis he digests, adds another tiny, almost invisible micro advantage. And over the span of 70 years, those tiny daily advantages have compounded into an absolute mountain of wisdom. This intense, relentless dedication to logic and deep research is exactly what lets him bypass the emotional reactions that completely ruin so many other investors. And finally, part 5, a timeless legacy. Trends fade, but principles endure. The most incredible takeaway from Buffett's entire life story is that you absolutely do not need extraordinary, off-the-charts, genius-level intelligence to become financially independent or highly successful. You really don't. What you actually need is consistency, a ton of humility, and insatiable curiosity, and above all, extreme patience. Whether you're actively investing, trying to build a small business, or even just learning a complex new skill, this exact same playbook applies. Don't exhaust yourself chasing every single shiny opportunity that pops up on your feed. Chase a deep understanding of a few solid things. Don't blindly follow the loud, anxious crowd. Anchor yourself and follow your core principles. And critically, stop seeking the dopamine hit of a quick win. Dedicate your life to building things of lasting, undeniable value.
In a world obsessed with celebrating instant viral success and flashy overnight fortunes, Warren Buffett is this monumental reminder of reality. Great businesses, they take decades to mature. Truly great investments demand years of quiet waiting. And honestly, great life-altering decisions often look remarkably boring in the short term. True wealth, whether we're talking about financial capital, intellectual capital, or just the richness of a well-lived life, is not generated by desperately riding the coattails of the latest trend. It's forged by thinking differently, insulating yourself from all that noise, and executing wise, rational decisions consistently over the entire arc of your life. That is the enduring legacy of the man from Omaha.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one really critical question to chew on. Take a hard look at where you're putting your time, your energy, and your money every single day. Are you exhausting yourself running on a treadmill, frantically chasing the next fleeting trend? Or are you planting seeds, remaining patient, and slowly building lasting value? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.